Dry Island Buffalo Jump is a small, almost forgotten provincial park in central Alberta. Let's visit my handy map. The Red Deer River runs through the valley, and it's the site of one of the most northern buffalo jumps in North America, which I believe was along this cliff. The nearby Tyrrell Museum has also excavated a significant bed of Albertosaurus, a tyrannosaur-like dinosaur, which was discovered in 1910 and is still being worked on in more recent years. The landscape reflects the switch to the Badlands, with pockets of coniferous and deciduous forest mixed with dry grasslands and sedimentary cliffs. The name Dry Island has nothing to do with alcohol. Settlers arrived in the area, and looking over the landscape, they saw a large, grass-topped formation. Judging by the huge valley, they surmised that the river must flood around this grassy outcrop and form an island during the spring months. They later realized that this was not correct, as the spring flood levels never reached those kind of heights, and so the area was named Dry Island. The route down is a gravel road, which becomes impassable when wet with rain. Because of this, the area is day use only. We paused at what I felt was the unofficial trailhead, and I admired some wild bergamot. Traditionally, in indigenous medicine, it was made into a tea and used to treat colds. The Blackfoot used it for its antiseptic properties to treat skin and wound infections. Here's some of the picnic areas. And an old water pump whose handle has been removed. The river in this area was quite shallow and quite calm as it was still early in the morning. Across the river, we saw a solitary sandpiper foraging along the shore. The invasive species have gotten a foothold here too. This is tansy. We decided to head off on the trail that we had spotted earlier, which I think is ultimately just a series of deer trails leading through the valley. As we walked, we came along some almost dry creek beds. On this one, I spotted some bits of coal, We continued on through the brush. I spotted a funnel web spider waiting in its tunnel for better-sized prey. And as we reached the sandier areas, I was delighted to see some prickly pear cacti.
Teeny tiny. In the mud. Just following deer trails. Okay. And some of them, yeah, they do look a little muddy still.
Here's another dry creek bed. And some proof that we were following deer trails. I paused to film some grasses blowing in the breeze, and then I turned around to see Lyndon with an amazing backdrop.
Bog in my mouth.
Sure can I.
Prickly pears continue to dot the landscape. The high valley edge gave us the feeling of being in the mountains. As we went, the click of some of the largest grasshoppers I'd ever seen became audible. Very audible.
Up the cliff.
Do you see the chipmunk? He or she is flicking their tail ever so slightly in the silverberry bush. Some paw prints on the dry surface. I found the grasshoppers a little unnerving, as they would fly into the air, up and down, just like some out-of-control helicopter. I finally got a good view of one on the ground. Get up when I get home, I guess. How many cacti do you see here? This rock doesn't look like the other rocks in the area. It might be an erratic deposited by the glaciers, which retreated about 10,000 years ago. And this one was fascinating, with all the layers splitting apart. The place definitely lived up to its name. We continued on through the hot, dry landscape. Like I mentioned earlier, the landscape seems to switch back and forth. Here's a nice cluster of aspens, a good sign that there's water nearby, or groundwater at the very least.
Little oasis. It was nice and cool here. Cheer.
This 1918 survey marker was where we decided to turn back. I believe this is an old owl pellet, judging by all the crushed bones. I was impressed by the size of this juniper bush.
Hear laughter.
It may not look like much, but I was very happy to spot this prairie smoke, with their fluffy plumes and Cerberus-like head of 3 flowers. So, we made it back to the parking lot. There was one last thing to do. I put on my water shoes, and we headed down to the river to cool off. As you can hear, lots of families have gathered in the area to enjoy the shallow water.
That's a big one.
I also enjoyed the cool water and spotted some small fish, clamshells, and even some crayfish. Unfortunately, someone doesn't have water shoes. As always, thanks for watching.